NTA Knowledge, learning to broaden horizon.
NTA, you can't beat the rich.
Dub. Yes. Oh. Now my dirty they smell like this. Now to throw away am quick. This kind smell fit make man sick. That woman throw away dirty for ground. Me sef go do the same this time around.
Hold up.
President Muhammadu Buhari meets with Toyota Company in Japan, makes a strong case for Japanese investors to explore attractive investment opportunities in Nigeria, just as federal government pledges more support to the private sector. Ahead of November 16 governorship election in Bayelsa State, collection of permanent voter cards commences from the 2nd of September 2019. Our discussion segment shall take a cursory look at flooding in Rivers State and options to address the phenomenon. You're welcome to Panorama. My name is Dibabari Siedoma Weke. Automobile manufacturing giant, the Toyota Company of Japan, has agreed in principle to establish an assembly plant in Nigeria. This followed the request by President Muhammadu Buhari when representatives of the company, led by the Chief Executive Officer and resident Achiro Kashitani, paid him a courtesy visit in Yokohama. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that President Buhari also extracted a commitment to Nigerians by the Japan Bank for International Cooperation.
The visit by the Toyota Company of Japan to President Muhammadu Buhari is coming barely 24 hours after Prime Minister Shinzo Abe assured him of his resolve to support Japanese companies expand their businesses and investments in Africa. The Chief Executive Officer of the company, Ichiro Kashitani, had told the president that although Toyota has assembly plants in 2 other African countries, it cannot afford to ignore Nigeria as the biggest market on the continent. To do that, however, Mr. Kashitani said greater involvement by the Nigerian government is key.
And the reason why they want the government involvement in that is because if they open up an assembly plant, they want to stop the importation of used cars. And of course, the issue there in stopping the importation of used cars to make it possible for Nigerian consumers to be able to afford cars, we have to revisit our whole lending system, credit system in the country, and and to have at least a mortgage system, where the average Nigerian can be able to, buy on hire purchase. So that was good. They were keen to have this conversation with Mr. President to get some reassurance and, of course, to get some government buy-in.
President Muhammadu Buhari also met with officials of the Bank for International Cooperation of Japan, led by Deputy Governor Nobumitsu Hayashi. During the meeting, the bank has indicated interest in funding critical projects to be executed by Japanese companies in various sectors of the Nigerian economy, especially oil and gas, power, and infrastructure.
They were very complimentary about Mr. President and his economic policies, making Nigeria an easier place to do business and trying to tackle the security challenges in the country. They said they have a lot of financial resources, and it's really just a question of Nigerian government giving them the opportunity to expand. That there are a lot of Japanese businesses that want to come into Africa, and that they're willing and ready and able to invest more in Nigeria.
So how does the Nigerian government feel about all this?
Very, very well, because as Mr. President said, our need is great. We have a huge infrastructure deficit, so we have to, build and build, We have also what he calls the capacity for absorption.
Also on the margins of the Tokyo International Conference on African Development here in Yokohama, President Muhammadu Buhari has granted audience to the Prime Minister of Algeria, Noureddine Bedoui. Discussions centered on various areas of collaboration and cooperation between Nigeria and Algeria, especially with regards to the gas subsector of the petroleum industry.
Algeria is now, third largest gas producer, or at least has in terms of reserves, the second or third in the world, and a lot of experience and expertise. And so we're looking at greater cooperation between Nigeria and Algeria in that field. And the Prime Minister also raised the possibility of gas pipeline across the Sahara through to into Algeria. Of course, Mr. President pointed out that we're already looking at those possibilities, one along the coastline going around to the north of Africa and one across the Sahara. And then also a Trans-Sahara highway, which is actually almost complete, into Algeria, across to Nigeria. It stopped at the moment in Niger, and there's just a small stretch that needs to be completed.
If the promotion of foreign direct investment in Nigeria is the essence of his multilateral engagements, then without doubt, here in Japan, President Muhammadu Buhari has made a very good case to the nation's potential partners. This is also an indication that his initiatives on making Nigeria a more friendly country to invest in is yielding the desired results. From Yokohama, Japan, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
So, President Muhammadu Buhari has met with leaders of the Nigerian community in Japan. He described as unacceptable the impact of the actions of some Nigerians on the image of the country and pleaded with them to change their ways. He says the values of the Nigerian nation are not in any way represented by the few citizens indulging in criminal activities abroad. State House correspondent again, Adamu Sambu, has more details.
It was the third plenary session of TCAT 7 on public-private business dialogue attended by heads of state and government, captains of industry, as well as outstanding businessmen and women from Japan and Africa. It is in furtherance of the unwavering commitment of the Japanese government towards enhancing trade and investment between Africa and Japan. President Muhammadu Buhari said the forum is holding at an opportune moment when Nigeria, faced with numerous challenges affecting its economy, is implementing homegrown and private sector-driven economic measures predicated on good governance, infrastructure and human capital development, as well as business climate reform.
Our government has put in place measures seeking to diversify the economy by developing agriculture, emphasizing on manufacturing, and addressing the energy and infrastructure deficit. With these, we shall be placing Nigeria on the path of rapid growth and sustainable development.
Nigeria and indeed Africa, he said, expect much from the TCAT Forum, considering the role of foreign direct investment in the economies of both developed and developed countries. President Buhari said his administration has identified important sectors that are considered priority areas that will drive the nation's economic agenda.
Japanese investors are therefore invited to invest in the following priority sectors in Nigeria, namely power and renewable energy, petrochemical and gas, maritime shipping and ports, automobiles, mining, agribusiness, healthcare and pharmaceuticals, ICT, and railway. Nigeria has very attractive investment opportunities with some of the highest returns on investment.
The federal government, the president said, is committed to removing all impediments to private sector participation in those sectors by creating policies that will ensure consistency, predictability, and a level playing field. He said already a presidential committee has been established to promote ease of doing business and make Nigeria more attractive and competitive for investment. Some members of the Nigerian delegation to the conference give their impressions.
Most of the aid from these organizations here from Japan have been going to East Africa. And it's because of the attitude from West Africa. We're not being aggressive. You can't just sit at home and expect people to be throwing money at you. You have to show interest that you're interested in aid. You want to work with the Japanese company. So for the president to be here is showing seriousness on his part.
When I look at all of the benefits in the last 2-3 days that we started, it speaks to my own economic agenda. We can harness all the contact, all the opportunities that are available, right, and take them back home and be able to say to our people, our thoughts are also part of the global thought.
We are looking for support from the Japanese government in terms of creating jobs, especially in the areas of technical and vocational education, so that the teeming youths roaming around Maiduguri and its environs and other local government areas shall be engaged, thereby reducing the high unemployment rate, which consequently entails reducing the insurgency in general.
In the meantime, in furtherance of the existing bonds of friendship and economic cooperation between Nigeria and Japan, discussions are ongoing on the establishment of a joint business facilitation council soon to be launched in Abuja, aimed at enhancing trade and investment between the two countries. From Yokohama, Japan, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
The federal government says it will continue to give necessary support to the private sector for ease of doing business in the country. The Vice President Yemi Osinbajo stated this when he received a delegation of the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association led by its director Timothy Olawale. State House correspondent Jide Onifade has more.
The Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, NECA, is the umbrella organization of employers in the organized private sector of Nigeria, formed in 1957 to provide a forum for the government to interact with stakeholders in the sector. This visit by the executive members of the organization is to lay before the Vice President, whose office is championing the ease of doing business in the country, concern about actions of few regulatory agencies which it sees as working at cross purposes with this laudable aim of the federal government.
And what we are saying is that while we may not have access to the office of the Vice President every now and then to escalate issues for his attention, and while also we do not want to be running to the courts to seek relief because of the issue of non-accessibility of some of the chief executive of these regulatory bodies, we want a situation where there is a clearing desk at the office of the Vice President where we can escalate these issues, and it is resolved amicably in the interest of national development and national economy.
The association commends the Buhari-led administration, saying its policies have generated positive impact on the economy.
As to the issue of minimum wage, what is very fundamental are those lower-rung employees. I think government should go ahead and implement for those people, while the aspect of the senior staff is being resolved because it's already over-delayed.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says it is really part of policy as a government to ensure private sector participation in the economy, stressing that the private sector has a very important role to play. The Vice President assures that matters of concern that require government's attention would be decisively tackled through the ease of doing business initiatives to improve the business environment and ensure growth of local businesses. In the State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
State Governor Yahaya Bello has emerged winner of the All Progressives Congress primary contest, having beaten 9 other aspirants. Correspondent Simon Ayedeyi reports that the primary election took place at the Confluence Stadium. We'll take a short break now. Panorama returns shortly.
Hear the call of change, stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. Go to so let the change begin from within. Look at you, Ogeruola. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me.
Welcome back, and now to our backgrounder. Some parts of Port Harcourt metropolis are experiencing all year-round flooding, leading to residents deserting their homes to seek refuge elsewhere. Robinson Deratade explains the plight of residents as they call attention of authorities for intervention even as the rain intensifies.
Just like in some parts of Port Harcourt, flood water in this area does not go dry throughout the year. This has made many house owners to desert their buildings. The flooding in Rumigbo and Rumodumaya areas of Port Harcourt is more pathetic as it lasts throughout the whole year. Port Harcourt flooding is traceable to poor drainage system, blockage of natural waterways, as well as the poor implementation of the city master plan.
Everywhere is flooded. The drain does not deposit to anywhere.
So the water around this area, Mboba, NTA Road, this Rumibo area, all flows down to this side. So except the gutter is made out, that's when you can relieve the people from this place.
Experts emphasize the need for authorities to be firm in demolishing structures on waterways and the desilting of drainages, especially now that the rains may become intense.
We, as usual, we are going back to these communities to carry out sensitization programs. New communities, new local governments areas are also listed in this 2019.
Residents can also complement effort of the government by conducting neighborhood clearing of drainages ahead of the predicted 2019 flooding. In Port Harcourt, Robinson Deratade, NTA News.
Here with me in the studio is Professor Enuvie Akwokoje, the Professor of Geology and Environmental Science, Engineering and Environmental Geology, Department, University of Port Harcourt. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much, sir. You're welcome. From the report we just saw now, flood everywhere, and it's frustrating challenges everywhere. I think Nigerians are more interested in getting results. What can the issue of flood in Rivers State be addressed?
Thank you for that question. The issue of flood in Rivers State, especially in urban areas like Port Harcourt, can be addressed based on having an integrated flood management and drainage control master plan. That master plan will isolate areas that are prone to flooding and ensure that people do not build in those areas, they do not do business in those areas, and mark them out. So first of all, we have a master plan that demarcates areas that are prone to flooding, and then enforce that plan that nobody should build there. So that is the beginning. Now, in Port Harcourt, especially the new urban areas, okay, there is no drainage master plan. There is no flood management master plan. People are just building on waterways and flooded areas, and so this compounds the situation in Port Harcourt, urbanization and misuse of land.
Okay, that brings me to the second question, talking about building on waterways and then dumping of waste. How can we sustain this, ensuring that there are options apart from the master plan you're talking about?
Yeah, there are options. We have the city planning department. Now, they ensure that when new buildings are coming up, they don't build them. And then, in addition to that, we also have a waste management department. They also ensure that waste are properly kept where they are supposed to be kept. Let's take Obiabo, for example. Waste are dumped on the road media. There's no proper place. Most areas don't have proper place to put their waste. So we have to also include that in our management plan.
Okay. For the university experts, do you think they've come up with any best solution to come to the end, or proper solution to end this flooding in the state, especially Port Harcourt?
Yeah, well, we have solutions. Recently, we had a technical lecture on flooding, and we suggested ways of improving the situation. See, we need to move from the incidence of addressing, taking relief material when flood comes, to the point of taking preventive measures. We call it proactive. So you take those measures to avoid the impact of flood. So we have the solutions, and all we need to do is to interface with government, with local government, and then we can take it from there.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
I was Professor Enuvie Akwokoje, Professor of Geology, Environmental Science, University of Port Harcourt. Thank you very much, sir, for giving us the time.
Having me.
Thank you very much, sir. Panorama continues. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC Bayelsa State, says collection of permanent voters' card across the 8 local government councils will commence from the 2nd to 31st of September 2019. This is preparatory to the November 16 governorship election. Doris Akumoyi reports.
The Commission is embarking on a review of S3 of the 2019 general elections while seeking solution to challenges and adopting alternative dispute resolution where necessary. They are also holding engagements with non-governmental organizations, among others. According to the REC, number of PVCs to be distributed to the local government areas are as follows. Brass, 4,452. Ekeremo local government area, 4,704. Kolokuma Pokuma, 2,718, and Nembe, 8,206. Ogbe is to get 1,682. Sagbama, 5,691. Southern Ijo, 765. While Yanagwa local government area has 21,601 PVCs.
I think it is very important that when you are going to have a complaint of a lost PVC, please, with that sworn affidavit, the Commission will certainly give you a form to fill, and you fill the form and complete and will process it.
Issues ranging from security, manpower for distribution, logistics to reach the hinterlands, proper monitoring are on the front burner.
You will even go to the house, the local government, that place again will now send them, go down to the point of collection. By now, they are beginning to not storage to collect it, and they now do. So a lot of them will collect their PVC. You need the soft copy of the registered PVC owners in this place. Problems will come, and people will not shift within the party to form what we call parallel primaries.
The electoral umpire also made public telephone numbers in case of emergency. In Yenagoa, Doris Akomoye, NTA News.
And now to sports. Nigeria moves up to second on the medals table after the harvest of medals Thursday at the African Games holding in Rabat, Morocco. Victor Azu has details.
36 states, including the FCT, have registered to compete in 34 sports at the 5th National Youth Games in Ilorin, Kwara State from 7th September 2019. Director of Grassroots Sports Development Ademola Are, who disclosed this to Clement Olorintoba in Abuja, confirmed that all is now set for the Games that has always provided the opportunity for Nigerian youth